Hey everybody, and welcome to the Garrison at Nobleman Square. Today we're going to be talking with international filmmaker Marlin Darrah, whose latest film, Amazon Queen, was shot almost exclusively in the Amazon rainforest. Take a look.
Emma, come on, let's go!
Get the case. Gentlemen, it was a pleasure.
Change of plan. Put the money on the seat or I kill your brother.
Something happened to him. I'll track you down. I'll kill you. Shut the door. I put a tracker on the plane.
Are you gonna be able to get underway tomorrow?
She's burning hot, losing a lot of oil.
Okay, well, what if you make a patch?
Jack, I got it. I'll take care of it.
I'm gonna go pick up some customers.
Horas no escritório da Companhia do Rio Caro, uma empresa pecuarista com sede em Manaus.
What are you doing in Manaus, Flynn?
We got a tour boat company. We've actually got a boat running up the river tomorrow.
This ship has been my family for over 30 years now, taking thousands of passengers into the Amazon for a life-changing experience.
Stop moving!
The plane must have crashed. It's in the river.
What river?
The Rio Negro. Expedition Cruises. Looks like we're going on a little tour.
Who are these guys?
They showed up this morning and paid in cash, and, well, we kind of need it.
Lucky us.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to inform you that your vacation is officially over.
You ought to be ashamed of ours.
Do what I say. For bodies, go over the side. Stop the boat.
Where are we going?
To the money.
The truck's here. Let's go. You're a fighter, right? Don't be one today.
My guess is you tried to fly the money out.
Enough! No!
Marlin, welcome to the Garrison. Just in full transparency here,
Yes.
you and I used to work together back in a television station on the West Coast in Eugene, Oregon.
Exactly right.
But you were doing documentary film work internationally before that. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I got started when I was 20 years old, right out of, actually, I cut the last year of college out and just went into filmmaking. So at 20, started doing these travel adventure shows. I'd always wanted to be a part of National Geographic, but being from Eugene, Oregon, small town, Washington, D.C. is a long way away, and I was told it was very difficult to get into the ranks of National Geographic filmmakers. So I said, well, what's my second choice? Let's just try to figure out a way to contact a lot of companies around the world and offer them a deal that they could not resist. I would make them a promotional show about their trip in the Amazon, Zanzibar, Antarctica, Kenya, wherever, and then I would keep all the footage and then make shows of my own that would be travel adventure based, and then see if I could make a career out of that. So that's what I did.
Awesome. And here, 40 some odd years later, 44 years later, you've started doing, or you've done your second now, dramatic feature film.
Right.
What brought you from doing documentary travel to doing narrative entertainment?
Exactly. Well, as a young filmmaker, almost every young filmmaker wants to make a movie, a dramatic movie. I think that's fair to say, most people do, most young filmmakers. So I guess I'd put that on the back burner for a long time. So about 18 years ago, I did my first dramatic movie, a 90-minute show called A Monsoon Wife in Cambodia. And that was with a small guerrilla team. We went over to Cambodia, about 20 of us Americans. Some of them had never been out of the country, some of the actors and crew. So it was a very challenging thing to pull off in Cambodia, a feature film, a small budget, low budget movie, only about $150,000 of cash. And so that was 18, 19 years ago. Then I came back, didn't do that well. I mean, it did okay critically, a few awards and things, but didn't get all the money back that I'd invested. So I hung my head down a little bit low on that and decided to go back to travel adventure filmmaking again. So I went and did that for another 16 years. And then along comes COVID for everybody, right? That changes everyone's paradigm. Everyone's model is shifted last year. So I decided, well, all my gigs were canceled, all of my productions overseas, all my lectures around the country were canceled as of March of last year. So I said, well, what am I going to do? I can reinvent myself, perhaps, go back to doing these independent movies again. So I said, well, let's try it. So I raised some money through some investors, a little bit of my own money as well, and assembled a group of about 15 people this time. And I said, well, what's the most dangerous place we can go? Why not, let's try the Amazon then, you know? Oh yeah, let's go to the place where COVID is about 80% rate of infection. Yeah, let's do that, why not? So the actors were game, they were plucky enough to do it, and brave enough and talented enough as well to be chosen for the movie. So we went down there last October, Scott, and went there for a month, but we only had 21 shooting days to pull off a very extensive amount of shooting, a lot of different scenes on a riverboat, going down the Amazon, up tributaries. It's a thriller, it's a heist movie, it's an adventure movie, all wrapped into one. So that's what we decided to do. And now here we are today, Scott, with I think 50 international awards at festivals, as well as 30 other nominations. And now we're going to get it distributed internationally as well as domestically. Streaming services coming to a monitor near you, let's say, in October, actually just a few weeks from now.
Did you shoot all of it in the Amazon?
I would say we shot about 95% at least, maybe 96% in the Amazon. The interesting thing for a lot of people, when they think of the Amazon, they think, of course, there's animals all over the place. They're just hanging down off of the branches and they're going to get in your face. That's not really the case. In the Amazon, where most tourists are able to go to, there's a fair amount of caboclos, local people living near the river, and they have guns, and the animals run away or they fly away because the locals will shoot them for monkey meat. They do shoot, unfortunately, monkeys for the meat, birds sometimes for their exotic feathers. So the thing is, they smell people coming, the animals do, along the river near any city or near any town down the Amazon. So when you go on a riverboat trip in the Amazon, you can only go usually about a week or two from the city, and so you don't see a lot of animals except for some birds. But you'll never see, hardly ever, even the guides say we've never even seen a jaguar. Isn't that interesting? And so you do hear howler monkeys in the trees. You occasionally see spider monkeys, occasionally squirrel monkeys, but not usually up close. So, to your question, about 3% of it was shot in Costa Rica, because I knew from other trips to Costa Rica that animals are far easier to see and to film there. And they are New World animals, and so I made sure in my second unit shooting, a couple months after we did the original shooting in the Amazon, I went to Costa Rica with a couple of the actors, and I knew of certain places where I could find squirrel monkeys, I could find howler monkeys, I could find toucans, I could find macaws that were closer and not afraid of people. And so I was able to get in there and get tighter shots. We weren't able to get hardly any animal shots in the Amazon. Isn't that interesting? So that is a little bit of a cheat, but as long as they're the same species and the trees and the leaves seem to be pretty similar. No, it's actually very, very similar fauna and flora in Costa Rica as in the Brazilian Amazon. So I think it's fairly seamless to intercut that, because we just had the actors then look and point at things that actually weren't on the shore or in the tree. And that's the only way you could do it with 21 shooting days in the Amazon. So that is a little bit of a cheat, but that's just for you, only for you to know that.
Okay, we'll keep it our little secret.
Oh, yes, yeah, right, sure. Big deal. It's cinema, right?
Yeah,
come on.
And in this movie, fabulous movie, breathtaking scenery.
Thank you.
The Amazon is actually a character in this film.
That's a good point.
And did your experience doing travel documentaries influence the amount of character that you gave to the rainforest with the animals, with the flora and fauna, and just that whole atmosphere?
Yeah, my background in travel, adventure, photography really helped out in this movie, obviously, and it influences all the work that's going to be coming ahead. Because, the main thing is, as you know, with all Hollywood movies now, there's so much computer-generated, green screen stuff. And like the movie just recently, Jungle Cruise with The Rock, I'd say, God, 70% of that seems to be computer generated in some way or another, the background, because they shot in Hawaii. And that's not the Amazon. It doesn't even look very similar to the Amazon, what they did show. But, that's the thing. It's a Hollywood film. It's a carnival ride of a movie. That's what they do. For me, what could I do differently for $100,000? What can you do to compete with a $200 million movie? Well, all you can do is try to bring in some authenticity from the location. So you try to infuse the movie with as much, obviously, tactile sensory overload, if you can, of things that you actually see in the Amazon, the markets, in the towns, the local people, the boat itself. So you just make it as authentic and real as you can, and that's the difference I was trying to bring to this one, to make it, hopefully the audience would feel like it is something like a journey if they were to go there today. That's what they might feel, that's what they might see, and except for being held hostage.
Hopefully.
Yeah, because it is a heist movie that it's as I said, a travel adventure kind of movie, but it's about innocent tourists that just get caught up in something that gets way over their head. The boat is taken over by a couple criminals intent on finding a lost treasure or fortune in the jungle, and so then they get taken hostage and used by these criminals to get that boat to that fortune in the jungle. And so it's that little twist that we put into the usual tourism kind of video that I usually do. So anyway.
So among you co-wrote this with another friend of ours from the KEZI past in Eugene, Rick Cullis. How did you guys collaborate, and how did you come up with this story?
That's good. Well, it's interesting. Rick Cullis and I had gone together on a travel adventure, a shoot that I'd done for a company in the Amazon before, many years ago, 25 years ago or so. And while we were in the Amazon filming this adventure show, tourism show, we said, God, this would be a great location, this boat, for a drama set in the Amazon, using the riverboat as a floating stage, if you will, for the actors. And it's just a natural thing to think about, God, how can we create a story that would then translate well enough on a low enough budget to make it convincing and make it something an audience would like to see. And we'll use these old style riverboats that you still see on the Amazon. They look like they're 100 years old here. They follow the same pattern that they did build 100 years ago, but they're made 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
They keep the same format for these boats. So I thought, God, that's a big advantage if we can just focus the movie on this riverboat and have that as our home base. We lived aboard that, the team of 14, 15 of us. So we lived here and we filmed it. That was our primary stage and home. And that was plenty of stories we won't go into right now about the dynamics of living together with actors and crew in a small area. But it was a big challenge. These are always, as you know, Scott, trials by fire. Can the filmmaker endure long enough to make this little movie? Because you know what? Most things absolutely have to go right, because you cannot afford to have things go wrong very much, because where's the money going to come in to fix something that went wrong?
And how are you going to get to the resources if you're out in the middle of...
out in the middle of nowhere in a way. And so it was an all or nothing shoot. Yeah. And so we contracted with Mark Baker, who's from Rhode Island, who owns a riverboat. And I knew him from 2 other times I'd done promotional videos for him. And we had conspired, Mark Baker and I said, yeah, let's do a movie someday down here. But we never did until last year. And so he was enthusiastic about it. But we got down there, and Scott, he was essentially bankrupt. He had no bookings for many months, for 7 months, no bookings. his entire staff was like hand to mouth trying to figure out how they're going to make it through the year. So we gave him a set amount of money of $40,000 for 21 days to use his vessel, his staff, the food, everything was involved in that amount of money. We got down there, I wired the money ahead of time. We got down there and he said, God, you know, I'm sorry, I don't have any money in my bank accounts now. And you're going to have to pay me more money because I'd sent him the money already. And I thought that was going to be it. You know, we're done because I didn't have really much money left at all. But he was so so stretched out from COVID and being no tourists coming down that he had spent the $40,000 before I got there, kind of. And so he needed $10,000 more just to get the food and things like that. So it was like a friendly hostage situation in real life, reflecting the dramatic hostage situation in the movie. But somehow you kind of make it through. And one other quick story of the other biggest challenge was our lead actor that I'd chosen, who plays Flynn, the co-owner of the riverboat. We flew these actors down from LA to the Amazon. So happy to see him at the airport. They come through the security. I'm going, we're going to make this movie. All of you guys are here now. But then the last guy coming out of the security gate was our lead actor, gentleman, and he was sweating, and he had his mask on, the plastic on, and everything, and he was almost vibrating, shaking. He said, I gotta see a doctor. I gotta see a doctor. I gotta get tested right away. I think I got COVID. And I was going, that's not possible. You can't have it, man. Maybe you got a cold or something. And he said, no, I'm really, really sorry, man. We had a football party 3 nights before I took off to join you down here, and I just talked to my wife on the cell phone, and she's got COVID, you know. And I was going, no, that's not. Let's start the scene again. I'll walk in and meet you, and don't tell me this. So anyway, we got him tested, and unfortunately, he had a positive swab, and so we had to isolate him in a hotel for 8 days. But the riverboat owner, Mark, would not let him on the boat with the rest of us. So suddenly I've got my actors and crew, except I don't have my lead actor. So it was going to be me playing the lead actor, which is a no-go situation, or it was going to be who else? So we didn't have anybody to draw from. But my first AD, Nick Thomas, who had really maybe acted in junior high or something, he said, let me give it a shot. I'll play Flynn, you know. And I was going, really? We're going to try that. We're going to actually have you play the lead actor and you don't have any acting experience. But we had no choice because we couldn't fly anybody else in from LA. It was, we had a very specific amount of time. We had to leave in 25 days and no time to fly someone in. And surprisingly, no one really speaks much English in the city down there. I was kind of hoping that might be more the case. There'd be a little bit more English spoken, but there's no way to find a lead actor who could speak English really well at the last minute. So that was our other 2 big challenges. 3, COVID, the boat owner not having enough money, and substituting the lead actor. And somehow we just kind of squeezed through and made it through just by that much. We made it through. So anyway, those are some inside stories. Yeah. It makes you think, do I really want to do this again? You do think that, don't you? As a filmmaker, you kind of go, God, that's a lot of work. You know, this was fast. We did this whole thing from writing to distribution in about 11 months. That's fast for most movies. Oh, yeah. That is pretty quick. And so we're pretty lucky in that regard, but my strategy is to make 10 of these movies in 10 years. And so the next one's in Egypt, the following one will be in Madagascar, next one will be in Thailand, another one in Cuba, things like that. And I always just want to stay on the theme of Americans that get into trouble, they get into things over their head in a foreign country, in a faraway place, and they get into a desperate situation. That's a very simple, easy theme, because we do it all the time as Americans.
Something we can all relate to as Americans. I've done that.
We're so good at getting into trouble.
Yeah.
Because I don't speak very much of other languages, and I know a lot of Americans don't either. And so if you don't know the language, you're open right away to trouble. Usually just step into something that, someone might take advantage of you or whatever the case, because they'll make two separate deals. They'll say one deal to you, and then when you're out, it's a classic story in Egypt. The price to go on a camel trip around the pyramid is $5. But if you want to come back, it's going to be $50. So it's there's always a deal being done. Not that I'd do the same thing if I was a camel jockey. I'd try to. I see a ATM walking toward me. If it's an American, that's the way we're looked upon in so many countries. But anyway,
a lot of our audience that's watching this are filmmakers, independent filmmakers, and they're curious about, we got a lot of folks that, are fascinated with what goes on in front of the camera. But there's also those who are interested in what goes on behind the camera. So let's talk a little bit of tech.
Good.
What kind of camera did you use, or cameras, plural, did you use to shoot this?
Right. Well, this is really good. I'm glad you segued into this for what are some practical things for filmmakers wanting to do a low-budget, dramatic movie, let's say. First things first, the tech stuff was with the cameras. You can really shoot this, I think, with a low-budget movie these days at 4K quality with about $6,000 of camera gear. You really can do that. It doesn't look like the high-end Red cameras or an Arri, a Lexus necessarily or above, but you can do it. The key thing is it might be best to actually have, if you're going on a location like this in the Amazon, take two cameras with you that are identical in case one goes down because of heat or humidity or whatever. And so for this one, we used a little bit higher than I was kind of expecting. We did use a Red camera, and it was, I think it was a Red Epic, but the thing was it had about 7 prime lenses, which slowed us down dramatically. I love prime lenses. Who doesn't? Prime lens, as you know, is a lens that just has one set millimeter, 10 millimeter, 20, 30, whatever it is. So we had a box of heavy lenses and all the Red gear too. As you know, with Red cameras, there's a lot of accoutrement attached to it. The monitor has to be attached, the batteries are hanging out, the other things are just seemingly kind of like hanging out of the camera a lot. It's not a very organic run and gun camera. Well, so we used a Red for that, which is can be a fairly expensive camera, and it does look really great. We shot at 5K, and then it's released now at 4K. But from the next movie, I think I'll probably be just shooting a Sony FS7 II camera. The body itself is only about $5,000 for that. And it has 4K quality, 24 frames, all the things you might need, and slow motion as well. And that's something I find very useful for a small number of shots. So generally, if you have a low budget, you might want to borrow stuff. You might want to barter with people if you can do that, just to get the thing shot somehow. There's a lot of gear out there, as we all know. So usually the equipment itself should not stop a filmmaker from making their film, as you probably know, as you know very well from doing several movies. So it does come down to, number one, do you really have the will to do it? To question yourself first. You're going to stay on a project for at least a year, because it's really hard to do one in less than a year. 2, do you have some small amount, a minimum amount of money, and the money that can be invested from people that can lose it? And that's a tough thing when you're going to a potential investor and saying, can you put in $10,000? You might lose that money. There's a real 50% chance at least or more that you'll lose it. That's hard to get somebody to invest money when you go with that approach, but you don't want to go to your uncle or your grandfather or some friend of the family and say, you're going to make 3 times your money on this. You might as well just go roulette wheel in Vegas. You have a better chance maybe, or blackjack. So the main thing is to first, of course, have the will, a great story. And if you know how to write like crazy and do it, or find somebody that is better than you and use their influence on a story you might come up with. And then the third is, of course, the money. Nothing happens usually without money. Your situation is really unique. You've done some movies by being very creative with people contributing for a good cause, and everyone's in the esprit de corps of the project, And they make this movie, and some profit will go to charitable organizations. That's great, and that is unique too. You really rarely run into that. Usually you can find people that have got equipment, and you could probably wheel and deal with them a little bit. You might have to have them shoot it if they bring in the camera for a very low amount of money. Try to get a package. For example, on this one, as I said, we shot this for $100,000. For the DP side of it, it was about $10,000 of that, which is a fairly high amount of money for $100,000. It was 10% of the budget. But you should be able to find something for about $5,000, I would think, for a camera person, a DP, their gear, hopefully some light kits if possible. And then you've got sound as the other super critical aspect of this, that any distributor that watches a film by an indie low-budget movie, the first thing they're going to usually comment on is if the sound is good enough. And that's often overlooked, isn't it? The sense of sometimes we get the photography can often be really good these days, as we know, even with iPhones. But the sound is the other aspect that's often not thought out carefully, and you have to get very tight miking. You have to have a really good sound mixer in there, not overmodulate, not distort things, not have too much background sounds. If you're laving them up, just make sure you don't see the lav itself, in the frame, things like that.
Sure.
So anyway.
Absolutely. Okay, Marlin, thank you so much for spending time with us. It's been an absolute blast being able to reconnect. And thank you, everyone, for joining us at the Garrison at Nobleman Square. Stay tuned next time, where we're going to be doing our Halloween episode with Doug Jones, the star of Star Trek Discovery and the creature in the shape of water. Until then, as always, stay focused and keep those batteries charged.